But it's for you from Unger Matt. The postal method. Oh, wait, actually, first to comment, the postal method has been in use for a long time, like Delaware, California, etc. Alternatively, he mentioned something called iComply distributed identity systems like iComply I'm not familiar with that one. Enable a legal identity verification to be performed client side. Maybe it's something like DocuSign. I'm not sure. How can tools like this integrate with LastPass? You have a lot of single sign-on apps, I know. Do you? Gerald? What do you do with other tools? Are there ways that they can tie into the LastPass authentication?
We're still thinking about how we can do this most effectively. It's like I think we had the discussion in the past as well with regards to like what can we do, what can we not do. I think the idea of LastPass being a digital wallet for all kinds of authentication mechanisms is something that is super attractive.
Love that.
But
idea.
It does come with a bunch of quality assurance issues, and it's not something that can be easily done. Sure, you can hack this together pretty quickly, but you want this to be properly safe. So I don't know that particular authentication system. iComply.
I'm looking at it now. It's a compliance management. It's intelligence compliance management. iComply. IS is, I guess, short for information systems.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to build a wallet that is actually works and that you don't necessarily expose stuff. So something to be looked at for sure.
Investor services. That's what the IS is. Yeah, very good question. Thank you, Unger Matt. Mark Fishburne. Migration from the data center to the cloud. 40 million now new workers from home has created unsupervised home-to-cloud path.
Yep.
Does the panel agree that companies have delegated data management to the cloud while security has been abdicated to the cloud with weak firewalls? It's an interest. Steve, you want to address that one?
Yeah, I think that's sort of the point I was making before, which is that when employees are protected essentially within the confines of a corporate intranet, they have the advantage of professionally trained staff who are curating the nature of the connectivity that they have, which is completely lacking from a home internet connection. And I'll bet we're going to see some repercussions from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like I said, the threat surface is definitely a lot larger. But at the same time, I would say it's like tying this all back together, at least through a corporate identity. And it's like I really want to make the distinction between the social identity or the state identity that you would have. But looking at specifically at the corporate identity that you have, you can tie back all of those kind of services together and have still a meaningful kind of security solution, because the IT departments, the security departments of those companies ultimately secure those kind of services that are being authorized. And then it's like if you put adequate kind of protections on the endpoints, endpoint protection, CASBs, all the kind of good fun stuff, you can at the very least create an environment that is reasonably secure. Is it the same secure as an on-prem environment? Depends probably a little bit also how you secure your that leverages software as a service that is tied together through strong authentication, multi-factor, single sign-on, et cetera, that still delivers adequate levels of security. But it's not. It doesn't come by itself. It's not just rolling out a domain controller, hooking up your machines to that domain controller and put a firewall around it, and boom, you're safe. But it's something that we've been thinking about for many years, anyways.
You know, Leo, the more I think about this, about identity in general, and the notion of it wanting to be some sort of lowest common denominator, we know it cannot be something that you know because you could forget it.
Right.
It can't be something that you have because you could lose it or it could get stolen. It has to be you. And so the only thing I can think of that seems practical, and people are not going to like it, but again, it's what do you get in return, is something like the Clear system for on a national scale, where you go to maybe to a bank where you prove your identity once, you register your iris and your fingerprint, and it's now part of it, that now is used to immutably identify you. You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to carry anything. There's nothing to lose. And as long as the system, which is then later verifying your identity is secure, and that we can pretty much do. I mean, the biggest problem is we always call it the last mile. In this case, it's like, the last foot between something and you that verifies who you are. And I just think it has to be biometrics, because that's the only thing that meets the requirements. And of course, we know it comes with the liability of who do you trust to give that information to?
And then, related to that, James Flattery on Twitter suggests perhaps a federated system of identification. He says something like Activity Pub. So I could go to the post office to confirm my identity. You could go to Apple. Is it conceivable, or does that add too much complexity, that one way to decentralize this and one way to maybe make it accessible and acceptable to privacy advocates would be to federate it, to decentralize it?
I think we've tried this in the past with mixed success, I would say. It's like if you think back what things like WS Federation and the various other kind of protocols were intended to do is like create a federation of identity providers that are based on SAML. So I think there's been some good stuff that is possible. I think the organizational complexity to run that is very, very large. It's not easy. Same with the technologies that rely on user certificates. It's like running that is not easy, especially once you start to go into very large environments. I'm sure anyone who's been working in federal government and been using PIV or CAC cards knows how difficult some of those things tend to be. So yes, it would be really great. I think we have some great technologies at our hands with OAuth and OpenID Connect and similar kind of things that do allow certain levels of federation and leveraging the same kind of protocols and selecting your identity providers. And we're seeing this today with the kind of social logins. It's like login through Facebook, login through Google, login through Apple, and those are the choices that you have. So I think there's starting to be a common denominator around picking the company that you like, and then establishing a mutual trust to this kind of central IDP. But I don't think. I think it's like solving that takes a lot of time and a lot of organizational efforts.
Well, we got some time.
We do indeed.
Let's end on a high note. We talked about the challenges, and of course, we talk all the time about the challenges that this current health crisis presents. But it also does seem to present some opportunities. It certainly got us in the last hour and a half thinking about different solutions to the problems that face us. Andrew, what are the opportunities going forward?
Wow, I mean, I think there are tremendous opportunities for entrepreneurs to fix this, and I think the current incumbents in tech are playing in a pre-pandemic world. So all the challenges, the challenges that we've talked about today of putting together an ID system and maybe based on biometrics. I agree that it probably has to be biometric based to fix this, because we have to come up with a fix. Otherwise, society doesn't work anymore. There's no normal after this. We can't just go back, oh, well, we'll have a vaccine next year and then everything will go back to normal. We have changed in how we think about everything. And so the opportunity for tech entrepreneurs is enormous. And as I said, I don't think the incumbents know how to play in this world. I think they're living in a pre-pandemic world. They seem in some ways kind of archaic. Maybe it's blockchain-based, maybe it's biometric-based, maybe there's a way of combining them. As I said, I think the Estonians are pioneering this. They're thinking along the right lines, but a huge amount of work still has to be done. But whoever wins this is going to dominate the business and